Hey everybody, welcome to Highly Unlikely with Josh and Jenaye. So excited that you're here today. I think I say that every week, but I am excited.
We are. Yeah, that's true.
That you're all here today. Also excited that our friend Peter Pinon is here.
Ooh, that was good.
I know, I'm getting better at my little accent. Peter is a mental health counselor and coach, somebody that's been part of our lives for, 5-6 years. I don't know how long it's been. And given us good wisdom. We've also sat in a room with him while he was teaching other pastors. He just spent some time with our staff team today talking about these topics, like 15 years of experience with all different sorts of people, but definitely speaking into the body of Christ and church staff and everybody listening today. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Such an honor to be here.
Yeah. He hails from the great state of Texas.
Yes.
With his wife, Lindsay, and four kids.
Ranging from 11 to 7. So it's easy to remember right now, but they get older, so we're going to miss that memory aid.
Yeah.
11 to 7.
Yeah.
In the early years, man, you guys were in the thick of it.
Nobody stopped us. Nobody said, like, hey, you know what's happening. You're gonna be really tired someday.
Yeah.
But we were really tired back then.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well,
That's awesome.
We'll get started with the question from the cube, and then we'll dive into the topic of the day. But what scared you the most when you were young? I would add a follow-up. And does it still scare you today?
I can go first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine was shutting the light off in the basement and then going up the steps. Like I would run, and it still kind of freaks me out today.
Yeah.
I don't know what my trauma is, but that feeling of like going up the steps from a dark basement.
Our 5-year-old, I did that. I make the kids, I say, you can't outrun each other when you shut the light off in the basement. You can't, because then one kid's like, you're late, baby. I'm like, just walk up the steps. I'm right here. Because that was so me too. My dad actually installed a light switch. So from our main floor to upstairs where our bedrooms were, halfway up the stairs. So I could walk halfway up the stairs and then turn the light off, or walk halfway up and get a light. I mean, that's how intense it was. That's the first thing that came to mind for me was the dark. Yeah. And I would say I'm not anymore. I don't run up the steps when it's dark anymore. But
there's got to be.
But do I maybe glance back calmly? Maybe.
There's got to be a psychology to like a dark basement with a narrow, dark hallway that you're going up, or we all watch Home Alone too much when we were little.
Our 5-year-old.
I think it could be that. There's definitely a Home Alone image that comes to my mind when you said it.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Our
But in Texas, we don't have
said-
basements, so.
You really?
Nope.
What? Why? Do you not have tornadoes?
There's you can buy a storm shelter, but there's so much heavy rock that it's so hard to excavate.
Interesting.
I guess I've been to Texas homes and knew it was like maybe a slab on grade, but that's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say our 5-year-old, when I was training them, the whole come up the steps, don't outrun each other, being afraid of the dark. She's like, Mom, it just feels like there's someone behind me. I'm like, I know, right?
That
Why?
is the feeling. And they haven't seen Home Alone, so I don't know.
So I don't know what it is, but yeah, that scared me as well.
What's yours?
Mine was getting left behind. Yeah. So eventually it went from being left behind by my parents, and this again, it had to do with, we had this local corner grocery store, and I lost my mom when we were there. It's probably like one of those maybe 7-8 aisles of a grocery store, and I just thought I was never going to see her again, and she found me very quickly. But then it was like I never want to be left behind. And then I found out that Jesus was coming back.
I was going to say his
I
rapture.
really want to be left behind. I'm like, whoa.
His rapture theology in here somewhere.
Yeah, it was getting really deep. I'm like, anytime I couldn't see my parents, because I'm like, they're certainly going. Like, Jesus comes back, they're going. But I wasn't sure. I had my struggles.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny.
Oh, my word. That is funny.
Cool. Well, we want to talk a little bit about mental health. And I know that covers such a wide variety. You just sat with our staff for like 4 or 5 hours, and it covers such a wide variety of things. So I don't know where you think the best starting point is, but I was telling you both, I want to get into like the structure of the brain, and even just, for me, I'm a person who, if I can understand how something works, and I can see it, then I feel like I can handle it better. So I know I think through that lens. But where would you start, like, on the conversation if somebody was asking about just like mental health? What do you do? What do you deal with the most with people? Like, what's the anchor for you?
I think about a definition where we're understanding that mental health has to do with content, like what we're actually thinking about, but then it also has to do with process, how we're thinking about what we're thinking about. And so my goal has become that I want to help people think better about their content, and I want to help them process that content as best as we can. So like, as far as content, when I hand the Bible to somebody, I'm like, this is the content. There's really good content here, but it doesn't do you any good if you're not going to process it. So there's different ways to how do we apply it to our lives, and that's when it gets really fun. Of like, okay, this book has all the truth, and then facts and science give us a lot of data. But how do we apply that to our lives? So mental health is that it's knowing our own content, knowing how to process it, but then how to get the information from other places to integrate practical strategies.
Right. So there's a biblical context here of like taking every thought captive. And I love today you talked to the staff about Romans 12, 1-3. Like, I think it's the fourth time that verse has come up in our team in the last couple of weeks.
So good.
So I just feel like the Lord has us right there, which all pertain to even what you're thinking about. And we all want to be transformed in our thinking.
Yes.
And I think the highlight of that verse when I was studying a few weeks ago was, then you will know what God's good and pleasing and perfect will is, but it comes through a transformed way of thinking. A lot of people wrestle with not knowing God's will, but they're untransformed. They're saved, but not transformed in their mind.
Yes.
And so that's the spiritual element, right? And then there's also this physical element of you literally have an emotional part of your brain and a logical part of your brain, the top and bottom, side to side. Can you tell us? I know there's the whole hand thing. I can't remember.
Really, really like,
But people,
I think the
people
whole
might be
flipping the lid
listening.
makes sense.
Yeah, so how do you make the hands?
So if
Well, they
you're
can go to
listening,
YouTube and watch if they really need to.
check
true.
us out and watch it too. But if you take your hands out and you put your thumbs in your palms and fold your fingers
We'll
over
do it with you.
and put them together. Yeah, we all have to do it. It's we go what we used to call children's church real quick.
Yeah.
So you put your hands together, and that's roughly about the size of your actual brain that sits in your skull right there. And so you have the left and the right, and then when you open your fingers up, if you twirl them or tweedle them, I don't even know what word.
I said spirit fingers.
Spirit
When you
fingers,
did it
yes,
earlier.
thank you. Then your thumbs represent the amygdala. So it's there's two sides of this almond-shaped part that are our core or the limbic system. And that's where more of the emotional brain, and then our spirit fingers folded over our thinking brain. And so that's what we're trying to, in mental health, we want to help people use the part of the brain that fits the situation. So we say, hey, you want to be in the right mode for the moment. Your core is going to help you with survive mode. So if there's a life-threatening situation, let the core do its thing. It's going to tell you, hey, you got three options: fight, flight, or freeze. Pick one. And that's
Is this
good.
the reptile part of your brain?
That is the reptile and the mammalian, if we're getting super nerdy.
Okay.
So it's both layers of that. And so the fight, flight, freeze, that specific function is something that reptiles have, but the emotional side is what mammals have. So like dogs, so that core and then the brain stem are what we have in common with, a dog, a cat, any mammal. That's what we'll see. We can see them have a core takeover. And then, like we were talking about earlier, the best place to observe the core takeover is with kids. We see them anytime they throw a fit, they're losing the functionality of being able to experience the high level executive functions of the cortex, which is like problem solving, emotional management, empathy. Like sometimes you look at your kids and you're like, you didn't think about how that would make them feel? And they're like, no, I didn't think, I wasn't thinking any of that. Or you ask them, well, what were you thinking? And they're like, I wasn't.
Right.
Well, it's because the core was leading the situation.
Because the thinking comes from the spirit fingers.
That being engaged.
Yes.
And the spirit fingers, as you see, they're connected there to the thumb. And so it is cortex and core that we're able to use to access what we call thrive mode. If we want to thrive, and if we're saying, hey, this is not a survival situation, we're good. We can move beyond the fight, flight, or freeze. What else could we do here? There's a lot of options that we have. And so that's what we're going for. We want to be able to use our whole brain. And for the listeners that love to nerd out with me, Daniel J. Siegel, he's the one that has made really accessible resources on the brain and on how those levels function, the left, the right, and the top and the bottom.
Okay, so let me just break it down a little bit for the casual listener.
Thank you.
There's
I
a
always
core.
say, explain it to me like I'm 5.
There's a core part of your brain where there's a lot of emotion, and then there's a part over the top of that called the cortex.
Yep.
And disaster strikes when a kid goes into a temper tantrum. Their core, the emotional part of their brain, is like taking over the situation.
Yes.
And it gets worse when mom and dad also allow their core to take over, and all of a sudden there's yelling between kid and parent. And really it's the responsibility of somebody in the room to go, no, I got to either take a time out. We got to get the cortex winning again. So I need to get down on my kid's level. I need to hug them. I need to tell them, like, I see that you're upset. Tell me about what happened. And you're trying to get people back. And this happens with adults too.
Yes.
Back into like cortex thinking rather than that emotional part of the brain taking over, which I think is really important because there's a lot of conflict that happens, or arguments, or screaming at each other, or immature behavior that all comes out of people just reacting out of their emotion or out of the core of their brain.
Yep.
And so you say, you're out of your mind right now, or they totally flipped their lid. And that's literally what happened. Is they threw off the cortex and the core took over.
So in the hand model, that is how you teach, correct? Where when the fingers fly up, you'd say that's you flip your lid.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
And that's what Dan Siegel says.
Okay.
It's that you flip your lid, and what we're trying to do is to figure out what are the tools we can use to re-engage the cortex with the core.
Yeah.
And that's where there's a library of tools. There's a lot of tools. But for our listeners, the quickest one is just a question.
Yeah.
A question needs the thinking parts of the brain to answer it. So if you're flipped and you say, hey, are you okay? What's going on? So it can be a yes or no question. That's the are you okay? It could be an open-ended question. What's going on? And when you do that, it helps to re-engage the whole brain. Just like doctors, they'll come in and say, well, what happened? What brings you in today? You could be experiencing all kinds of pain. Pain also flips the lid. So the pain centers are going off. It's a core takeover there too. And they say, well, what's going on? Then they say, hey, if 0 is no pain and 10's the most pain, where's your pain right now? And so that engages our evaluation system to be able to get an answer. And because we could feel like it's all kinds of craziness, but once we were like, the pain's at a 5. Okay, breaking my arm was worse than this. So you're calibrating that. But questions are the greatest tool for the connection of the parts of the brain.
Yeah. I was thinking about it in the context of people who are really good with like answering questions on the spot or even debating. Like they don't get thrown off. They just kind of keep their cool.
Yeah.
Like, they've somehow kind of mastered like keeping their cortex in place. Even in the midst of intense pressure or things that maybe would offend somebody else. It's kind of fascinating.
Yes.
To see how certain people are just very disciplined in how they do that.
Because we can train it. Some of it is innate, like there's people that are hanging out with wild animals that I would never touch, but they're leaning into that. And you can train your core to not take over. And that's what we're trying to do in relationships is we're trying to say, hey, we're in a conflict right now, or I'm feeling triggered in some way, but I want to stay connected. So you're asking yourself questions of like, what's my deal? What's going on? What thought was there? Or what emotion am I feeling? What do I want to do right now? Maybe not do it first, but just kind of step back a little bit. And what we say is think about your thinking, think about your feeling, think about your doing. And that can help us to, even those questions are helping us to re-engage the core and the cortex.
So how about for the person who's like in the middle of a crucial conversation of some kind, or they're put on the spot, or they're in a like a serious discussion with their spouse, and they kind of feel like you get that feeling that your emotions are starting to take over, or you get cotton mouth, or your heart starts to pound, and maybe they can't like exit the conversation. You know, I know people have talked about like focusing on like one thing on your senses, like one thing that you can see, or two things that you can smell. With our kids, or on breathing, or like what are some of the tools if people feel like I'm starting to flip my lid. I've realized with our kids, and I think I read this somewhere, like helping them name the emotion. Hey, I can see you're upset, and like validating it, followed by a question, or totally diverting. And like almost distracting them out of their core eruption that's happening.
Peter,
you should tell the story.
You know what I'm going to ask? Have you seen this online trend when a kid is like melting down and you go, Jessica? And they're like, and it's like, Jessica, have you seen that?
I've not.
I'm intrigued. My word.
Our 5-year-old goes, our 5-year-old goes, Dad, I was crying and I was upset. And all of a sudden mom goes, Darla?
So Darla's the character I turn into when my 5-year-old won't eat, and I'm her in the kitchen, and I'm the waitress Darla. But
it's a way of redirecting.
I saw it, and I'm like, those are the things where I'm gonna be like, Peter, what is that? What maybe
it's super unhealthy.
Maybe you're like, that's not a good mechanism.
I'd have to learn more about it. I need to be a student of that. Well, it came from the internet, technique.
So
it is definitely just a form of redirecting. Like you're taking their attention and
just refocusing. And that's, I mean, that at its basic level, that's what we're trying to do. In the Mexican culture, we would do that a lot when somebody's sad. It's like, oh, look at this and look over there, or look at the dog, or we're trying to distract. So that's okay. It's not the only way. Like you talked about, like being able to name the emotion. There's these different things. So either asking a question or giving them a thought-provoking statement. So like when you say, you feel sad, they at least have to think about that. Or, whether it's Jessica or Darla, you're giving them something novel to have to process through. And that takes connection with their brain to process that. Sometimes if they're feeling something, I'm like, you look sad. And they're like, yes. And I'm like, okay, is it a little or a lot? And just that little bit of evaluation, it's just a 2-point scale really, but it helps them to evaluate at another level. What I would say, the Darla Jessica technique, mostly it's silliness. Silliness is so good in parenting. And if you build it into your relationships in a healthy way, it can be really good too. You can laugh at yourselves. You can practice techniques. A lot of times when I'm working with couples, I'll say, look, I'm going to give you a tool, and I want you to start silly and work your way up to serious. So, when I'm trying to help them, like, okay, when your wife says this or when your husband says this, I want you to reflect that back to them. And I want you to start very silly. Like, do it in the dumbest way you can. Let's start silly, and I make them practice. And then I'm like, because if you can practice it when you're silly, then when you're serious, it's accessible.
That's cool.
So you've said the word evaluation a couple times, and I know you're operating out of a little bit of a framework. I think what you're bringing us back to is don't just have thoughts, but evaluate thoughts. So can you talk through that a little bit?
How do we evaluate our thoughts? Maybe that's where we can start.
Well, first we got to know that they're there. So, because they're quick. They can go, across our minds very fast. So being able to evaluate them will be dependent upon us noticing them. So that's where journaling is the number one tool that I recommend. And a lot of us have aversion with that. We're like, oh, no, I'm not going to journal. Some of us think that it's keeping a diary. But a journal is basically, what is the most important content that I need to either process or remember? So even for me, I'll journal a 1-word entry. I'll just put sad, and I'll put on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm feeling sad at a 7 today. That's a journal entry. And then if I want to, I can say, well, what was the thought that triggered the sadness? What the thought pushes the emotional button to feel that 7 sad. So knowing what it was. What was it? Was I disappointed? Was there a loss of some sort, whatever it is, that's what we have to figure out a way of how are we going to catch the thoughts, which again is what we're taught in Scripture. We want to take the thought captive. And it's not just negative thoughts, which again, if you can't catch all the thoughts, start with the negative ones for sure, but it really is every thought. We're instructed to take captive every thought, and it's being hyperbolic. He's making a point, but it is important to know that we're not just supposed to take captive the negative thoughts. All of them captive, and then make them obedient to Christ. So it really is, even some of the positive thoughts, even the things we want to remember, catching those thoughts. And in mental health care, we're trying to figure out how do we practically manage those thoughts after we catch them. I feel like, it's like if you're catching a wild animal that was roaming around your house, you're like, I caught it. Now what do I do?
Now
totally.
what do I do with it?
And that's where we, through our relationships with people, we're trying to figure out, this is what I can do with my thought. Once it's in my journal or once I've shared it with somebody, now I'm trying to figure out, how do I make it obedient to Christ? There's a lot of different ways to do that.
So why a 7? Like, why do you put it on a scale when you say sad?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it helps us, we're not just in the awareness of the emotion, but now we're moving from awareness to evaluation to say, this is here, but how intense is it? That intensity question helps us to go even deeper and say, I'm not the saddest I've ever been, but I'm also not one sad. That's the lowest sad that you can be. And sometimes anything under 5 can kind of fly under the radar. And a lot of times when somebody asks you, hey, how are you feeling? And you're like, I don't even know. Most of the time, it's because you're feeling more than one thing. So it might be 7 sad, 3 frustrated, and maybe like 5 anxious. That's a common combination. Those 3 emotions go really well together, and we don't realize that we're experiencing all of those. And so if you think about each emotion being a color or a paint color, and you mix them all together, that's what overwhelm feels like. It's indistinguishable. You don't know what emotions it took to make that color, and you're like, well, what color was there? Now, great artists can tell you, oh, I know exactly how much red that was, how much purple, how much green, or whatever color it was. But most of us, if we're not practicing these skills, we don't know what was there. So sometimes it is a process of elimination. And that's what I do with myself, is I'm saying, am I sad? No? Okay. Am I afraid? Am I angry? Am I happy? And even with kids, sometimes I know they're not happy.
Yeah.
But that's the Darla Jessica thing. I'm like, are you happy right now?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, but that's silly. So like, it's just
right.
So it's a process of elimination of just looking at those core 4 emotions: happy, sad, angry, afraid. It's like the cardinal directions of the heart.
So let's play this out a little bit.
Yeah,
just
please.
for the person like listening, thinking, how do I apply this? So let's just be real. Last night, I was stressed and frustrated.
Yeah.
We are in one of
Context.
the projects that Josh and I chose to do together. It's a big project, and it is wrapping up in the next week. Probably one of the biggest projects personally we'll ever do.
And I also scheduled like a very busy week of work.
Yes.
On top of that. And then some of the stuff that needs done, I feel incapable of doing. And so I was alone. I started to feel overwhelmed. And I sent Jenaye a text that
Do you want me to read it?
No.
Can we please? I give the listeners what they want, Josh.
I was going to say before you read it, I was going to say.
Literally, can I just read it?
Yes, before you read it, I was going to say a text that I knew, like, named how I was feeling, but I thought, I don't actually hate myself, but this is what I wrote.
I legit hate myself right now. I just don't know how to do crap. And I knew he was trying to do some projects that we could have paid other people to do, or other people are skilled to do. But what he's saying is, I don't have the skills to get this done.
And it should have been easy. And I thought if somebody told me they loved me right now, I think I'd burst into tears just because of all of like the stress and emotion and frustration I was feeling. So tell me about my mental health in that moment or how I could have worked myself out of that. Honestly, what happened is one of my buddies came over and he goes, "You want me to give you a hug?" I was like,
That's so good.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I didn't hear that part of the story.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say, let's answer like in the heat of the moment. Because I always think these are really great conversations and these are really great things.
Yeah.
But like I just got a text from the babysitter who picked up our kids. And I know there's going to be a conversation with, there's something a kid is frustrated that I can't do on a field trip. And it's going to be a thing. Okay, well, when the rubber meets the road, how do we, scale or how do we, because sometimes I think that sounds cute. That sounds great. Yeah. But then when the rubber meets the road,
in
do
the
I do it?
heat of the moment.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I want you to answer that.
So the text is a way to take a thought captive. Putting it in your journal is a way to communicate those thoughts with yourself. In a prayer journal or in a prayer, you're able to share it with the Lord.
Yeah.
So those are really important ways that we can start of like just getting it out there. But then recognizing that those thoughts have a charge to them. They're pushing emotional buttons, and the button can be pushed at level 1 all the way to level 10. And so, you saying that you hate yourself, there's the extreme language leads to extreme emotions. So you don't really hate yourself, but in the moment you're allowing yourself to say that. And so you're exaggerating to make a point, but your emotional system doesn't know that. So in the moment, you are feeling what it would feel like to actually hate yourself, even though it's not going to last. It's like when in relationships, you say something, you're like, if, kids, when they get really frustrated, they're like, well, I can't go to that sleepover. Well, I hate you, But that's what happens is like we're trying to find language to express the emotion, but sometimes we don't realize that comes with an emotional price tag to it. So once you get it out, that was important for you. You got it out, and then you can evaluate that thought and say, do I really hate myself? Or do I hate that myself can't do this thing? So if the extreme language, we're trying to make it more specific. What is it that I really don't like about myself right now? And what crap can I actually do? Because I can do some crap. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Hey, well, I said it. He said it.
Well, it's like I am capable of something. But again, in that moment, when you're saying I can't do crap, your emotional system is feeling what it would feel like to be completely incompetent.
When you say your emotional system, is that technically the core of your brain?
That is the core.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're feeling what it would feel like. Or even if I were to tell you, bro, dude, you are worthless, man. Like you can't do anything right. Like if I were to say that, if you put it in a relational context, it helps you to feel the weight of that. If somebody else were to tell me this, then you can feel the charge of it. There's weight to that. And so you take it captive, you make it obedient to Christ, and then you're recognizing there's some emotional cleanup that I have to do here. There's because as soon as you think those thoughts, as soon as you let them linger without being challenged, then they're going to have that emotional charge. And that's what emotional processing does, is you need to do emotional processing, even if you know that the beliefs that triggered them are not true. So like, again, if I don't even have to ask you, like, do you really hate yourself? I know you don't.
Yeah.
But in that moment, your emotional system felt like it did. So that it brings up the other cool thing is getting it out, evaluating it. That's helpful. But then physical contact, it resets our system to process physical connection.
Yeah.
Our brain comes back online. The cortex comes back to the core. So when I put an arm on you, or when when you feel that connection or the validation, like you said earlier, or affirmation, if I come and say, hey, bro, you might think that you can't do crap, but I think you can do crap. So notice I'm taking your words and saying it back to you so that I can make you evaluate it at a whole other level. And and I'm doing it, it even feels a little bit silly on purpose. Because again, what happens? If we can use it when we're silly, It'll work when we're serious. And
like
so that's why instead of using some psychological jargon for competence, I'm saying the word crap because that's what you did first.
Right.
That's right. We gave permission because we said it.
Thank you.
So interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, and I took it like when I love the idea of like putting it in a journal, or like to me, Jenaye was a safe place for me to just say like, rock.
I love it.
This is how I feel, you know. And
I love how you framed journaling in a way that's not, dear diary. I like that is a journal I could do.
Yes.
Like it's like, no, this is helping inform, and it does not have to be super, wordy, emotional. Could.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love that application.
You
for
think
sure.
about David's Psalms, and so many of those are like journal entries as far as content. Again, they were songs, but when he is talking to another part of himself and he says, "Why, soul, are you downcast?" He's processing that. Some part of him is talking to his soul. And that's what journaling for me is like. If I were to send my soul or my heart or my mind or my spirit a text message, what would I say? So that's what I put.
Yeah.
I put in my journal. And I don't do it every day, but I will do it every day that I need to. If there's something that pops up in me and I'm like, where's that coming from?
yeah,
And I'll set some time aside. I want to go back to what you said earlier of like, if we are flipped and we're in this conversation with someone, the best thing you can do is call a timeout. Timeouts have saved marriages. They've saved business relationships. They've saved teams. They have saved people.
I put Josh in the corner all the time in timeout. No, just kidding. Just
Think about what you've done.
just kidding.
And it is, we do
That's
have.
not what he's referring to.
We do
everyone.
have a parenting type or a discipline timeout, like, hey, go sit in timeout.
Yep.
This is a strategic one, which is closer to what we see in sports.
Yeah.
I mean, games are won and lost when there are timeouts
That's
at the
a
right
great
time.
illustration.
So because you can, but notice that you have to remember that when you call a timeout, the other team also gets one. So you can use them in different ways. But I don't call a timeout for you. I can't call a timeout for the other team. I have my timeouts. So you have to build those into your relationship and say, hey, when things get rough or when I'm flipping my lid, I want us to practice taking a timeout. And in that timeout, you can journal, you might text somebody else, you might pray, you might go for a walk, you might give yourself a butterfly hug, you might ask somebody else for a hug. The engaging of the both sides of the body also connects the core and the cortex because we have that bilateral activation. Big word there.
Yeah.
And when we move both sides of the body, it really helps us. You can't do that without using both sides of the brain. And so it's really good. Like, so that's why sometimes you're overwhelmed and you take a walk and you're like, nothing was resolved on this walk, but I feel better. It's like, well, because now your whole brain's online.
Yeah.
Before, your core was running the show.
I realized that I have a nervous tick when I'm standing on the front row of church during worship and I'm about to go on stage and I get a little like, like the adrenaline kind of kicks in and I alternate tapping my fingers at a different pace. And I think that's a little bit of like there's something there to rebalancing the two different sides,
Yeah.
So it's a calming mechanism.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be in the tick category. That might be more of a psychologist.
Yeah.
But it certainly is a strategy. And I think that can be helpful for us because you also brought up another tool of grounding, of like you're feeling the sense of touch with your own body. Like some people make fun of a butterfly hug, but just doing this, I mean, that's why when we are experiencing emotion, we'll cross our arms because it's like we're trying to give ourselves some level of, hey, buddy, it's okay, me. Like, protect yourself. And so this right there, it's just some very light physical touch. I don't have any issue with it. Yeah. I think it's fine. You can even, if you want to go with both sides of the body, people will use that as a calming strategy.
Right.
As well. So the grounding is using the senses and saying, hey, what do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell?
Yep.
If you can taste something, then you can, a gum or some tea or a drink that can be helpful. And those are starting with the 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. That can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Especially like you said with your kids.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, we're kind of jumping all over the place, but so you were saying recognize your feelings and then evaluating. So I love how you share about how you have utilized scaling. I hope I'm saying this correctly. Utilize scaling, like even within your marriage, how you can communicate quickly with your spouse or kids, or with how you're doing. Could you just talk a little bit practically? How could people start to implement things like this, whether it's at work or at home or personally?
And Peter, it's a culture here that is very avoidant, or
the North Dakota culture.
Yeah, just German, Norwegian, like passive, thinking harmony of any kind, even false harmony is better than conflict. And so even when
I
you
would say there is a ton of false harmony around North Dakota in families, workplaces, a lot. Churches, I mean, a lot.
Even couples that when you say like, hey, take a time out, they're going to see it as an exit strategy. Not like, oh, I got to get back in the game.
Come back.
Yes.
Yeah. So just in that context, share her question.
Well, there's a massive difference between a timeout and a forfeit. If you take a timeout and you go to the locker room, game's over. So that's avoidant. But if you take a timeout and saying, hey, let me have this space and I'm going to come back, that's really important. So after awareness, we want to be able to evaluate, and then we got to manage something. We got to do something. There's got to be some, from awareness all the way to action, something has to happen.
Yeah.
And that's what, to me, scaling helps you to go through those 3 phases of awareness, evaluation, and management to say, okay, if 0 is the worst I've ever been and 10 is the best I've ever been, where am I right now? This is that 36,000-foot view of my whole self right now. And you're just checking in. So not just mentally, not just emotionally, not just relationally or spiritually, but any kind of way that you can slice yourself, you're checking in and saying, my worst versus my best, where am I in the midst of that? And I shared today that when we were in our first session this morning, that I was at a 6. After doing those 2 sessions and loving on people and having the time of my life like a kid in the candy store, I'm at a 5 now. That took a whole point off of me just to do that. And it was awesome. And I was grateful to do that.
Yeah.
But that has to be a gauge, not a grade. We can't see, when you look at that, you're looking at your worst, not somebody else's worst and not somebody else's best. You have to calibrate it with yourself and say,
and not what a hopeful best would be, like the
best I could ever be.
It could be, this could be as bad as I've ever been.
Can't be aspirational.
Great, I love
There's
that
space for that kind of scale, but you have to, that it would come after this. If you could say, hey, what do I think realizing my potential would be like? That's fine. But right now, this is just like, this is a gauge of like, where's your gas in your tank? How much is in there? And there's not shame in that. Once you gauge it, then you can decide where you need to go. If the gas is low, go to the gas station. If the oil light's on, go get some oil. If your tires need air, put some air in them.
Yeah.
That's what a gauge is for, to be able to help you know where you want to go. And that's why from the awareness to the action, we need that help. We need that ability to do that. And again, scaling is the quickest way to do that. Scaling connects the core and the cortex. It connects the right and the left sides of the brain very quickly. That's why doctors use it. Like I said earlier, the pain scale is them doing that. They're like, I want your whole brain to assess very quickly what you think is going on in your body right now.
Yeah.
Some people are having this realization of being like, that's like a Jedi mind trick. I can't believe that, like, just thought it was protocol, but there's purpose. I love that.
And I love seeing that with my kids when we take them to the doctor and the doctor asks them that question and they're like, You see them moving through those phases of like the gears are turning, trying to figure out where's my pain at. And that's what we're trying to do. I use a 10-point scale because it's easy. If my wife says, hey, how are you doing? And I can just throw 5 fingers up.
Yep.
I could throw 7 up, however it is, and she knows where I'm at. When I felt my scale drop from 6 to 5 today, I text my wife on my way over here to record, I said, hey, I just need you to know I'm at a 5 now. Please be praying for me. I'm going to do the best that I can with the 5 that I have. And that's the other realization for us, especially as God's people, is that we can get confused sometimes and think that if we're really with God, then we need to be a 10 all the time. Instead of saying, you need to be honest about where you are. I'm a 5 now. Well, how can I give the best 5 that I have to you and our listeners and viewers? That's what I have to offer right now.
Yeah.
I would love to be a 10. That'd be more fun in some ways, but it's not realistic. I mean, what am I going to do? Go outside and try to fake being a 10? Can't do that.
Yeah.
I got to be true to where I am right now and do my best versus try to make myself at the 10 best.
Into something else than what you're.
It would feel fake.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like somebody could listen and, hear this and go, what? We're talking about self-hugs and, like super soft type stuff. But I also just would challenge that thought with when you're committed to operating in your life and with your family out of a whole brain and a connected brain rather than flipping your lid and then being okay and lashing out and then apologizing. It does take committed work. I remember a season in my life where there was like certain conversations that would happen and in my gut, I would just feel like it's all falling apart or I don't trust myself in this. And I would literally look down at my belly button and be like, you're okay, man. I would literally like tell myself that.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to keep my brain connected. It's not like positive self-talk. I'm just like, I can feel myself flipping out a little bit and trying to figure out tools for, how do I approach my kids with patience even when I want to flip my lid, or how do I say this conversation the right way even when I got nervous, or how do I enter into a board meeting on a huge topic and keep my brain together, so I think that's the goal.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to just the information overload, even that I maybe feel like we've given our listeners. We just went through a ton of parenting episodes that were so great, and how to do marriage and family as a team, and all these things where you could walk away and be like, I have a million things to implement. And even what we're talking about now, and we just came out of a lot of this teaching and activation and ways we can apply it. And I'm right now wrestling with, Josh and I need to sit down and talk about, but what are we going to focus on? Because we can't implement all this at one time. So I want to try to encourage people that maybe feel like, I just was trying to read this parenting book we were talking about, and I'm trying to implement this with my kids and mental strength there and this and that. And I actually I see it in ourselves. I don't know if it's true for other people listening, that we can go from this topic podcast to that topic podcast, and you can watch this YouTube video, and you actually aren't getting better at anything because you're watching and listening to too much stuff where I feel like we're throwing a lot at the listeners, or we just maybe have in the past episodes, which are all good, but I just want to encourage you to not get overwhelmed, and it's going to take some time and intentionality and staying the course. Because we've done, you have a tool, the wellness wheels, that we've learned from and utilized in our marriage. And I'm like, we were really good at that for a period of time. Like we would do it quarterly. Yeah. We maybe got down to like once a year now. We do it, right? Like it's not quarterly anymore, where you can have such great systems. And then when you lose focus of it, or we've had our eyes on other things, or we've been preoccupied with other stress. Yeah. So I don't know where I'm going with all those thoughts. I think I'm trying to reassure you, if you feel overwhelmed with the amount of things, it's going to take time. Yeah. And it would take not just taking 45 minutes to listen to a podcast, then to implement these things. Yeah. There's going to have to be time and practice and patience with yourself and grace with yourself. And resets or timeouts or whatever the language you want to use in your family. So I want to acknowledge how much time this does take, and we want it to be a quick fix. We all want to be able to have the silver bullet. But when it comes to this, when it comes to all the previous topics that we've had on the podcast, it's going to take time and effort. And I don't know if you want to add to that, Peter, any encouragement or perspective that you'd have on seeing things fully implemented that we're talking about here into your life.
I think I have probably looked at thousands of tools in these 15 years. And what I have tried to do is say, Lord, you know all that's in my brain. You know all that I've diligently tried to process. What tool would be helpful right now? So we say that all the time of we need to be Spirit-led with all of these tools, because otherwise it becomes more about the tools than the relationship that the tools are helping us build. The scaling, the timeouts, it's all about the relation. That's where it comes down to that. And so many of us have these tools that we will use in our human relationships, but for some reason we don't take them to the Lord. This morning when I woke up at 5:30, my first thought to the Lord was, I said, Lord, I love you, and I'm a 6 today. And I'm disappointed because with everything that's in my day, I wanted to be better than I am today. So I want to sit in that for a moment. And Lord, I want you to know that I'm committed to give the best 6 I can to your people. Help me, God.
Yeah.
And then I went with my Bible reading plan and we did these other things. But that's, to me, I could have been alone with my thoughts and spiraled down. And just wallowed in that. But I took it to the Lord. And again, I learned that from David and the other psalmists of they said things that people could have said that would have destroyed their faith, but they said it to the Lord. In Psalm 22, why have you forsaken me? That's a big claim at God. But we can feel that, we can think that. And the difference is that we're giving it to the Lord, we're saying it up. I mean, David was even singing that. What were the chords? What was the melody to why have you
singing
forsaken
that on a
me?
Sunday.
Yeah, I'm guessing it was a minor chord or minor key, but that's interesting. So when we feel overwhelmed with all the tools or all the books, and we live in that age right now, God knows all of them, and you can pause and say, Lord, what do I need right now?
Yeah,
it might be as simple as taking a deep breath. It could be self-hug. It could be going to be vulnerable and go ask somebody for a hug. It felt really weird for me the first time that me as a man having to go to my wife and say, hey, I need a hug.
Yeah.
Are you willing to hug me? Because I would want her to need a hug from me because I'm big and strong. But am I willing to let me feel safe in her arms?
Yeah.
And that was really hard. And then sometimes even letting my kids give me a hug. I'm like, hey, could I have a hug?
Right.
They don't even have to know why, but just their embrace is powerful.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say of like, the Lord knows all the tools. You don't have to teach them to him. That's why it's so fun. Is that every other relationship, you got to build it in, you got to install it. But with the Lord, if there's a tool that's helpful, you can use it with him.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking change isn't going to come because of more information. It's going to come because of transformation. And so even listening to everything I've heard you say today, there was one tool, one thought you gave about validation that I thought, okay, if I just do that, that will lead to a lot of transformation in conversations I'm having. So all the other stuff is good. I wrote it down, but that was, for me personally, I think we'll have to sit down, me and Jenaye, and just say, what do we need to do? But for me, I was like, okay, the validation thing, like I can own that.
And more than likely was Holy Spirit illuminating that to you, highlighting it to you, right?
But not feeling like I have to all more and more and more and more information. It's like, what's just the one thing God gave me today? I'm also finding it really intriguing to hear you say you're a 6 and then you're a 5. How bad something in me is going, maybe we should have got him a nice gift. Maybe I should change the calendar. How can I fix Peter? Yeah. And it's also like,
I appreciate you sharing that.
But it's also like, it's not my job either. And I think that's just the cost of vulnerability.
It is.
And trusting that you sharing that with the Lord and with Holy Spirit is what you needed. You didn't need me to step in and fix it because you're vulnerable, which I think sometimes can stop vulnerability. You know, we're afraid
because I don't want to be a project.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
But I also, if it were low enough that I wasn't able to function, then I would have an honest conversation with you and say, hey, we're going to have to reschedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your intent of sharing it would be clear, a difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are limits.
Yeah.
And to me, it would, for sure, it would be a 3 or lower. I'm not able to do. I mean, 5 gets my attention, 4 is pushing it, but once it's at a 3, that's I'm going to reschedule.
Yeah.
And do something else in those moments. So, because
And
again,
I would say we come explaining North Dakota Midwestern culture to people is always just fascinating, and I think sometimes we don't even realize it because we're in it. Where we have always said, like, North Dakotans, which it's all we've ever known, but they have some of the hardest work ethics we've ever seen, and it's because people go out and work and do what they need to do in 30 below degree weather, and they're not gonna throw a pity party. It's just like, this is just what I have to do. They're just, they got grit, they're tough. And I would assume a lot of people are really uncomfortable with the thought of whether it's, no matter which, we know personal details of what impacts the number that you shared, which is deep and it's heavy and it is all encompassing. But I just want to speak to the listeners, which are mainly Midwesterners, where I'm like, yeah, I am wrestling with uncomfortability of, we're not good at sometimes at even identifying that, because you should just be able to make yourself an 8 because you have to, based off what's on the calendar or, you know, whatever. And so we are even, I feel like today I'm challenged in that a little bit of, are we good at identifying it, or do we just deny it because of you have XYZ to accomplish? Which there's kind of a both and, like, you know, you have responsibilities to fulfill. But so that's where my mind is going in a lot of sharing it. And I'm wondering how many people are uncomfortable, even with the concept that you've presented and how you so vulnerably have shared it as well.
Yeah.
But it makes me a little uncomfortable.
It makes me completely uncomfortable, which is why I don't enjoy vulnerability.
Right.
But I know that there's not another way to connection with the Lord and with the body of Christ. It's vulnerability is the way, but how do we do that without oversharing? That's why I love that when you give your number with one of the scales, it helps you share at 1% detail with 100% honesty. And then that's for the left side of the brain, but then the right side can go back in and take the number and talk about the narrative behind it. And that's what really helps us build those relationships. So that's what I would say for all of us that struggle with the vulnerability is that's what the numbers are for, is because if I can say the 6, you don't have to know my narrative. I can just start there. And even sharing that with a spouse or with your kids, even building it into your coworkers, eventually you could share it with them. And sometimes it's even just saying, you know, my number's lower than it usually is. So you can be more vague and still be vulnerable without having to be so detailed. That's like a 0.5%. You know, my number's lower than it usually is, and I just wanted you to know that. I'm going to need some extra grace. So it might not mean taking a mental health day from work, but it might mean going to work and then letting your spouse know that you're going to need to take it a little bit easier in the evening, or you need to, you know, go for a drive, or, you know, there's all kinds of great activities that you can do to help you replenish, recover, and get that time with God or get it with somebody else in relationship.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for all the work that you've done on this topic. It's so interesting. And
You're welcome.
I know you just like took a tiny little fingernail and scratched the surface. So,
Which we'll connect in the show notes. We'll put all of Peter's information, his website, things like that.
Yeah, mindsconnected.com, right? Mindsconnected.com
That's right.
if you want more information on all of this and Peter's contact. So.
Yeah, so good. Thank you so much, Peter.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we
Thanks for
appreciate
having me.
you. Appreciate your gifting and just how you're leading in your life and how you're equipping the saints in many ways. So Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for listening. If you haven't yet, rate and subscribe. We say it every week and we'll continue to say it, but we love you listeners. We appreciate you and we'll see you next episode.